U.S. out of Haiti.
Haiti will be free.
Black Lives Matter.
So great to see you all this afternoon expressing your solidarity with our sisters and brothers, not only on the border but also in Haiti. That's why I love the combination of those two. End the occupation, Haiti will be free, and stop the deportations, because our brothers and sisters who are being deported to Haiti are freedom fighters. These are people who've been repressed by the government of Haiti, by the occupation forces that are in Haiti. Haiti has been under a United Nations occupation ever since 2004, and that occupation was what triggered it. As Robert mentioned earlier, it was triggered by the coup d'etat, the kidnapping coup d'etat against the popularly elected government of President Aristide. Now, many of you may say, what does this have to do with our sisters and brothers on the border? Well, it has a lot to do with it. Following this coup d'etat kidnapping, massacres were taking place. Many of those massacres conducted. Remove the mask.
Well, let's see if we. I'm going to just try to turn this up for you. Okay. You didn't press that right there. Right there.
Many of these massacres were conducted by the occupation forces, by UN forces. And why were they being conducted? Because our brothers and sisters who had voted for the government of President Aristide, the government that was providing them with health care, with schools, with clean drinking water, with support for local food production by our farmers, which for the first time since the days of the founding of Haiti, made the Haitian people proud to be Haitians again. People who were going back home to Haiti, those who had fled the Duvalier years, were going back home to Haiti. And then this coup d'etat took place, driving away people. It's been close to 18 years since that coup, but the coup continues because there is an occupation led by the US, France, Canada, and with Brazil being in charge of the troops that have been massacring people in neighborhoods like Cité Soleil and Bel Air and a number of communities. We are talking from 2004 and continuing to the present. The Haitian police is trained, and I hope, and we are right here, so this is in front of the federal building, because we need to condemn the federal government of the US for their policies, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. It's been an ongoing policy of repression in Haiti, of subjugation of our people, of exploitation of our people, and this must stop. The brothers and sisters on the border, these are brothers and sisters on the border there. They had to flee from the repression. Many of them, their homes were destroyed. Right now, what's going on in Haiti is that the Haitian police is one of the most repressive forces in Haiti. They were trained by US police. They were trained by Canadian police. They are trained by other troops from the United Nations, but mostly US and Canadian. And these are very brutal forces, and what they have done, you see, when the people movement took power, they got rid of the Haitian military. They got rid of the Tonton Macoutes, Duvalier's secret police. But what this occupation has done, it has re-emerged. It has resurrected the Tonton Macoutes, but they are very slick. They are very slick in the way they do it. They call them gangs. When they call them gangs, the media call them gangs. That means people think that they are not connected with the Haitian government. You see? And that's the trick. Because all over Haiti, everybody talks about the connections, how these guys are financed, the weapons they get. Now, think about it. Haiti doesn't produce any AK-47. Haiti doesn't produce any Galils. Haiti doesn't produce any kind of M30 or all those big caliber guns. And the young brothers and sisters who are part of those so-called gangs, but who are really death squads, they can't even afford a meal. They can't even afford to eat 1 meal per day, yet they have bullets galore and they are shooting those guns all over the place. And they are burning down houses. And in the countryside, people are being displaced. Their homes, their lands are being taken over. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. And this is what our brothers and sisters are fleeing from. And so, ever since 2010, many of them have gone to Brazil, some to Chile, where their labor has been super exploited. And when they are done exploiting their labor, then now they are pushing them out. And where do they go? They go wherever they can. As free human beings, they have to find life somewhere. And then they end up on the border where they are being mistreated and killed and criminalized. This is terrible. Now, I use the word killed. Many of them are killed on the way. I've spoken to a number of them. They are attacked. Many of them do not survive the crossing of those rivers. Many of them do not survive crossing those jungles. I've a direct testimony from a number of them. This one young woman told me she doesn't know how to swim, yet the water grabbed somebody who was holding her hand. She went along too. She doesn't know it was a rock that she miraculously hung on to. And that's what saved her until others could come and rescue her. This is what's going on. On the way, many of them are ripped off. Many of them, the guides would leave them on the road, and then some of the robbers and thieves would take advantage of them and steal their money and rape the women. Now, after going through all of that, they end up on the border. They end up on the border. Many of them have relatives in the US. And yet, what happens? They are brutalized, put on a plane, and shipped to Haiti. Many of them have nothing. See, the trip cost them, and I'm sorry for going on, but I want you to feel what's happening to our sisters and brothers.
That's right.
You see? The trip out of Haiti cost them about $35,000 and $4,000. The Haitian government, the Haitian occupation government, encouraged the people to leave because they were making money off of the trip, you see? And when the people got there, to those countries, to Brazil and Chile and others, their labor is exploited. And keep in mind that Brazil and Chile are part of the occupation forces in Haiti too. See, this is a pattern of getting our people to flee. They had to sell their land. They had to borrow money from friends. And this money, they had to pay it back. And now this gentleman, when he got back to Haiti, he told everyone that he had nothing but the shirt, the clothes on his back. Because when the police on the border, the security forces, the border patrol, arrested him, they took all of his possessions, including whatever he had left for clothing. He spent 6 days in a cell, unable to brush his teeth, with no toothbrush or anything, unable to bathe or change his clothes. And he landed like that in Haiti, in a land where he has practically nothing. The man was breaking down until they cut off the interview. So I will stop right here, because I know others have to speak. You have to express your solidarity. But understand one thing. Many times people stay focused on the refugees, as many groups call them migrants. They are refugees. They are running away from a system of repression, from a brutal system of exploitation. They are refugees, and they are seeking asylum in this country and in other countries. They deserve respect. They have rights. There are international laws that protect people who are seeking refuge, and they deserve that hearing. They deserve due process. They deserve asylum. They deserve refuge. But I am appealing to all of you who may be from other organizations that are dealing on the refugee questions or immigrant or whatever you, however you call it. For Haiti, the people are engaged in a liberation struggle, a struggle for the national liberation of Haiti. And there is no way, if you want to support, as we are supporting the brothers and sisters here, you got to make the connections with Haiti, with what's going on the ground in Haiti. And you got to support the brothers and sisters on the ground who are fighting to overturn that rotten system, that system of injustice that is pushing our people away from Haiti, that is making Haiti a living hell for our people. Finally, many people may say, well, what's the connection with black folks here? Ever since 1915, Haiti has been under the domination of the U.S. government. When the U.S. invaded in 1915, they didn't leave in 1934, no. The Marines, the forces left, but what they left was a Haitian military that they built up to continue the work of the repression and to continue protecting the people, their allies who are ripping off the country. So I call it the American century in Haiti, or should I say the right-wing, the slavocracy century in Haiti. President Woodrow Wilson, who invaded Haiti in 1915, was a notorious racist. Yes. And the troops that he sent to Haiti were recruited from the southern United States. And you remember in 1915, all the terrible Jim Crow and things that was happening. So that was Wilson. So the connections have been there all along. And that's why we've never had any good election in Haiti, because the same way that they are suppressing, that they suppressed the black vote, that they prevented black people from voting, that they excluded black folks from the voting process, is exactly what they have been doing in Haiti to the present. So 1990, the people of Haiti bucked the system. They forced them to have a free, organized election, and President Aristide was overwhelmingly elected, and again in 2000. But each time the U.S. came in to overturn this process by our people and to put people in power who are the people who are just like them, racist and violent and want nothing to do for the well-being of our people. So please...
The occupation of the Haitian nation and the occupation.
All power to the people!
Power to the people!
My name's Jeremy Miller. This is Bilal Mafundi Ali. We're here with the Black Alliance for Peace. It's our honor to be here with you, community. I want to start out by acknowledging here to stand in solidarity with the Haitian people who are in Haiti and with the Haitian people that are trying to migrate to this country. We want to acknowledge the resignation of the Special Envoy Dan Foote due to the atrocious policy emanating from the Biden administration for which he previously worked. We want to acknowledge the tepid statements, and I'm not including Maxine Waters in this, but some of the tepid statements and moves from the Congressional Black Caucus in solidarity with the people of Haiti. But we want to say, too little, too late. This is not enough, as Pierre just laid out. This is a multi-generational control